Yo, I just
Great
have a
character. We'll go.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with Petey and Cal, and today we're talking about zombies, all the way from George Romero to Kirkman. What makes this stuff so big? Why do we like it? Why are we going forward? And so we've been having a discussion with the guys here, with Cal and Petey, about what their take is on this whole, the difference between George Romero's the Walking Dead, and then we
Day
have
of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Dead.
and of course the Walking Dead. So yeah, I'm going to pass it off to Cal. What was your take on this with the George Romero stuff? What's the difference between that and what Kirkman has been able to do?
George Romero stuff was good. George Romero stuff is good, and Kirkman's stuff was a lot of shock value at the end of the day, whether people want to admit it or not. It was a good shock value, yes, because you did tune into Walking Dead. Oh, who's gonna die? Oh my goodness, what's the next type of atrocity we can expect these people to suffer? How low will these people go? But George Romero's was, look, the zombies were actually part of the story. This was something that you had to contend with. It wasn't something that would just okay, the zombies weren't plot devices, or we're gonna just pop them in here so we can make the story go along, or so things don't have to be dealt with. You know, in George Romero's stuff, the zombies were reflective of social issues that he was, dealing with throughout the story. Like, you get to Robert Kirkman stuff, and you could go 10 issues without a zombie. There was issues where the zombies weren't doing anything because it was cold and they were frozen. So, they were like, oh, this is great. It's winter, so the zombies can't move. So we can just bicker and kill each other, that type of stuff. We had whole issues with the zombies were literally non-factors. When they were fighting the governor, the zombies were non-factors until finally, like, the wall was broken. They're like, oh no, the zombies are getting in.
But you see, I think the thing you got to understand is that with Kirkman, you're having a world where, initially in the first episodes, that what to do with the zombies, who the zombies, how do you handle, how do you get around? But by the time it gets on a little later in the series, you start seeing there's a difference. People have understood, like, this is like a force of nature. It's like a tsunami. It's like a hurricane, and they're learning to deal with it. I mean, it's still unpredictable.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
But what's going on is that you have the real issue is society. How do you build a society? In this after the zombie age, and this is what happens. Can you trust Guy, the man who's next to you? And this is where we see the greatest enemy is not the zombie at all. It's who? It's man himself. And
all right. You keep having a solo. Every time we do the show, you have a solo debate. After we build the start of the show, and then you can fight. Right? I'm gonna just say
I was attacked. Wait, I was attacked by Cal, and you don't see that.
You asked him to speak, and then you were like, "No, I got to try to present The Walking Dead in a nice, a nice manner." Now I'm gonna say like this, right? I just had my issue with it is I'm saying the success that it had. I'm not taking anything away from it. I think you get a successful book in that time to get a book that's a phenomenon like that. I'm all for it. I'm cool with it. The thing was, people retroactively decided that it was the first only Marvel had copied it and did their Marvel Zombies when Kirkman worked on Marvel Zombies. So it's like, it wasn't like that original idea. Like, he wasn't doing that much different from what George Romero was doing. And of course, I like to say that Mike Mignola did his zombie world here that was done in the 90s. Didn't sell not nothing, but the trade sold enough that they did 2 of them. They did a couple of issues. I think the artist in here, Pat McEwen, he did a short little strip of zombies, which was cool because he's a great artist. But it didn't go anywhere. There was no buzz. This Kirkman had a buzz. He did the comic book for 194 issues. But at the same time, it is what Cal was saying. It was a lot of drama, and I think the TV audiences got to see that it was a little shock when they killed off the Asian character. Like, they did exactly what was in the comic book, and then I think that was a little too much. Like, having him turn to a zombie or having someone kill him, but the way he did it to show you how bad this Negan character was, they might have needed to pull back a little, but that shock factor is in there. Like, they had the thing, and I think did you want to strike back now?
I don't know. I don't like the way you're perpetrating me as some type of angry man attacking you guys. I totally take offense to that. You know what I'm trying to say? But no, I don't. What I'm just saying, yes, that was a very shocking thing. It is in the story, and there's other shocking things within this story that go on. And of course, he's changed it, but they've also kept many of those things. And people call out the popular character and say, "Oh my gosh, you can't do that." Why are you doing such a thing? I'm just saying that that's a different issue altogether. We're talking about the zombies themselves. You got. I don't want to say Cal is knocking Kirkman, but you know what? I'm going to say Cal is knocking Kirkman. You know what I'm trying to say?
I'll knock you next.
you know, give him the credit that he deserves. I don't see there's a huge problem with what's going on. Zombies come in waves. We had the stuff from George Romero. It's come back in 2 or 3 waves as time has gone in the last 30, 40 years. And the same thing happened with vampires. We've had the original vampires back in the 30s or 30s, and back in the 50s, and again we had it in the 80s, and now we have this whole Twilight thing that happened. So things come in waves back and forth. And our man Kirkman was able to catch that fire when it was hot. Those combination of things. I mean, for all I know, you can write a romance, Cal, and that may catch fire based on whatever else that you've been reading.
Oh my God!
I would love to say zombies caught fire, but you had Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, there's that too. That
came out,
one, yeah.
And that was successful, but it was nowhere near as successful as the Walking Dead stuff. The Walking Dead as a property became huge, so there was something else going on there, and it wasn't the zombies. There was something else going on. It tied into, as much as I said it didn't necessarily tie into any social themes, I think it caught with a social taste for this disbelief in government, disbelief in your fellow man. This is what people are really like. You got to watch your back. Nobody can be trusted. That cynicism, it really tied into that at the end of the day. Nobody stopped and said, well, wouldn't people band together to try to solve this problem? No. Everybody would retreat to their own things, and they would do this, and we've just had a year of seeing how functional that is, retreating to your own corner or making something a political issue that affects everybody. So it doesn't work. It works when we finally band together. But it made for some nice soap operatic storytelling. Okay, and then you could throw a zombie in there every once in a while for a little horror. That, of course, certain characters were never in danger of dying. Rick isn't dying. Michonne isn't dying, but Glenn, I was so PO'd in the comic. I stopped reading. When they killed Glenn in the comic, I said, you know what? I don't like this. Okay. And I said, this isn't fair. Simply because I said, Glenn is the only Chinese cat here. That's it. It's not like you see a lot of them running around or anything of that nature. He's the only one. And you're going to kill him off. And yes, it may have been so you could say it was, identity politics on my part. But I was like, damn, you got a whole slew of these other guys. You already killed off Tyrese. Okay, that was the only black dude over there. It's not like there's a plurality of people. Okay, and it's like you're gonna go kill Glenn. And I actually liked Glenn's character, so I found reasons to be angry with it. But I stopped reading after that, and I think I watched the show right up to that point as well, right up to the point where they decided to kill Glenn, because they did make certain changes. They decided that Michonne in the book is like brutally raped. Multiple times. They didn't show that, on the television show. Rick has his hand cut off in the book. They decided not to show that for every other reason. But they're like, no, we got to go ahead with Glenn. We got to go ahead with Glenn because, we got to, try to stick with things going on over here. So that type of stuff, like, yeah, whatever. But they tapped into it. They tapped into that, they tapped into that perception, okay, that people had and probably still have at this point in regards to their fellow man. And so they were able to sell it. They were like, yeah, this is the future. That's why when the pandemic hit, everybody was running, trying to get all the toilet paper.
Well, then that kind of kills, you bringing up the pandemic kills my point that we were talking about would in the zombie apocalypse, would we work together? And looking at the pandemic, there's a good chance that we would kind of have those infighting. So when I was watching the show, that stuff I was kind of okay with, when they had the guys fighting over stuff and you don't know whose kid was who in the first season of that. I know the TV show more than the comic. But one of the things that I didn't like is this is what happens in movies all the time. Like say, your family member gets it. And then you're like, you already seen 3 million zombies and having to shoot them in the head. And then your kid or wife or your grandmother or your mother gets it. And you're like, I can't kill them. I don't want to be the one. And it's just like, wait a second.
Yeah, I never believed that. That never made a lot of sense.
It's like, all right, we have a pact, right? We have a pact between the crew. It's like, all right, if you see me become a zombie, make sure you kill me. Say, yeah. The next thing I'm walking there, and you're like, I can't do it. It's Petey. It's like we gotta find a cure. And like after all this time,
I'd have no problem.
No, wait a second.
No, that's just the vessel, man. You are no longer.
Yeah.
You are no longer.
I just don't like you saying it. Like you get a little too comfortable saying it.
No, what is it? I don't. You got to be comfortable with it, because if not, you're gonna end up being a zombie yourself. We've seen on the show that when you try to keep these things, it doesn't work out. They don't recognize you anymore. They don't recognize you anymore, even if you recognize them. That's just the vessel. You're gone. And then you had so many scenes with people who were like, "Oh man, I don't want to become a zombie." They're shooting themselves because they don't want that stuff to happen to them. So it's, the person isn't there. If they had something where they showed somebody coming back, then you might say, okay, fine. But it's never happened. And that type of what is this now? That type of what is the word? I can't think of the word, unfortunately. But that type of feeling that you're having towards the person is just misguided. It was destructive on the show. It never worked out. As many times as they showed it, it never worked out. Sentimental.
So, Mars, you have anything else?
No, I think we kind of covered the zombie stuff. I mean, we have some disagreements on what we look at and how we think about these things, but I did Kirkman math credits, and like I said before, these things come back in waves. The Godzilla monster movies are coming back again. And the stories are different from time to time, and they appear to be creatures of their times that they are. Here we're in a very cynical age. From the dark Superman. Instead of a bright, shining Superman, it's a different age. And so these are the things that...
Whoa, that's a totally different story, man.
I think it's the same thing. I think the age is different, just like you have a dark Batman.
Totally
What are you talking about?
I saw you just tried to sneak that through. Don't do it.
I'm not saying nothing too. I'm just making some points. I mean, Petey will
take shots. Don't do it.
I'm not taking no shots. Petey, do you not?
As a matter of fact, we're doing Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut Justice League. I'm gonna catch up to you there. You thought you were slick, right? I'm gonna catch up to you there.
I have no idea what you're saying. Petey, before we sign out, is there anything you want to say?
I have nothing else to say about The Walking Dead, which is dead now.
What about the comic you just made? What about the comic you just made?
I'm cool with it. Let's just go. Let's go on.
What? Holy crap. All right, Spinner Rack.
Out.
Your behavior is unacceptable, gentlemen. I cannot understand what the heck is going on with you two.
He's still recording.
I was.